Hello friends, I'm Steven Doasare and I welcome you to my YouTube channel. This is the very first video and I promise you this journey is going to be intriguing because we are going to help each other grow. I believe there are some issues, some of them personal, some of them social, that we can solve, help each other grow. But until we talk, until we share our ideas, these issues cannot be addressed. And so this is the purpose for this channel, to help us grow, to help us have each other's back. And so today we'll talk about forgiveness. The first topic I want us to talk about is forgiveness. Stay with me as we go through facts and truths that will help us to decide as to whether we should forgive or not. While we are in this world, people will always hurt other people. People will continue doing negative things to other people. There are so many stories that you hear and then you think of it and then you get baffled. Because how can a fellow human being do that thing to another human? But all of these things, when you think about them, you realize that even as we are humans, they are bound to happen. Someone is always going to steal from someone. There is always going to be a murder case. Someone is always going to oppress another person. But today I want us to focus on the oppressed. The person who is suffering because someone did something bad to them. And some of these things, they are very difficult to let go, because you just can't get them off your memory. Whenever you see these things, whenever you hear of these things, it takes you back to your memory because someone did that to you. And so it's very important we talk about this topic of forgiveness. Now, what at all is forgiveness? From all that I've heard and all that I know, I believe forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could be different. In simple terms, giving up the hope that the past could be different. It is accepting that the past has happened. You know, oftentimes some of these things are very difficult to let go, only because we hold on to them. They are very difficult. It hurts. I'm not saying they are okay. If someone does something bad to you, I'm not saying it's okay. It's never okay. In fact, the human nature will react to it. If someone does something negative to you, you will get angry. You will get hurt. And so some of these things are bound to happen. But the question is, should it continue? Should you continue to be angry? Should you continue to get hurt? Once I heard a wise man say something. He said that if the mind becomes pleasant, we call it peace. If it becomes more pleasant, we call it bliss or joy. He also said that if your emotions become pleasant, you call it love. When it becomes more pleasant, you call it compassion. But there is this last thing that he said that gets me thinking. He said, if your surrounding becomes pleasant, then we call it success. With this, it's very difficult to be successful, because for your surrounding to be successful, to be pleasant, it's very difficult to jeer that, to for that to happen. But there is one trick, there's one thing I've found about it that can help to achieve that goal. That goal will also help you to have an inner peace, to set up your mind to forgive. And I believe that you need to hear this. It is simply looking into yourself. It is simply starting to be peaceful by yourself. It is simply helping yourself, finding yourself, getting yourself at peace. Listen, you can't change everything around you, but you can start from somewhere. You can start by changing the perspective from around to you. Start from you. If there can be change, it should start from you. And it is 100% dependent on you. No one can make you peaceful. No one can keep you happy. To be happy is 100% dependent on you. You and I can tell that the person who cannot forgive always resents. You know, when somebody does something that hurts to you. Recently, I heard in the news that someone murders someone's very own son. His only son, indeed, I should say. She lost her husband, and then she had this son. All her efforts were into this son. She took care of her son. And then one day, somebody took her son from her. The person murdered her son. She couldn't forgive. But at the courtroom, the person who murdered her son asked the woman that she should forgive her. And do you know what the woman said? She said she had already forgiven her because she realized that it was hurting her. It was getting her stuck. It was getting her to resent, and then she couldn't move on in life. She was stuck. She had nothing to do. She couldn't do anything. In fact, she could cry at night because of that. It was a nightmare. And so she decided to let go, only to move on. It is very true. When that happens to you, not that very instance, but even any other instance that is worth forgiving, you realize that you are angry. You get hurt. Whenever you see the person, even your blood pressure increases, your heartbeat increases. You resent. And I'm not saying some of these things can't happen. They can happen. But to keep on making it happen depends on you. I want you to make the decision, even as you listen. Because these resentments are like taking in poisons and waiting for the other person to die. It doesn't happen that way. Life is fair. It can't happen that way. If you are angry, you stop. If you are hungry, you eat and then you get satisfied. If you are thirsty, you drink. It quenches your thirst. If you work, you get paid. If you take in poisons, you die. Resentments are poisons. We take in and then we wait for the other person we resent on to die. But life doesn't happen that way. Life is fair. I want you to take all of these things in mind. Now, the next thing I want you to know, that if you take this thing emotionally, you will never let it go because it hurts. But to forgive is not a heart experience. It is a head fight. It is something you need to think through to make the decision. It hurts, but think through it. Because I've realized that decisions that will keep us moving on in life are not based on emotions. If we depend on our emotions to make decisions, they can never move our lives forward. In fact, the best decisions are the decisions that are thought on. So you can never win a battle with a heart experience, which is supposed to be a head fight. No, it doesn't happen that way. We can't depend on our emotions and make better decisions for our lives. Because our emotions will always let us down. Do you know why? Because things that happen to us are always bad. I want you to think through it. Because if you can think through it and realize that you will let go of the anger, you will let go of the anxiety that unforgiveness can bring to you, you will let go of the depression. Some of you can even wake up at night and cry. It can make you sleepless. Why? Because it hurts core into the soul, into the heart. But if you can think through it, if you can consider it a head fight and move from that perspective, you will realize that it is worth letting it go. If you realize that that has happened and it is past and it can never change because it is already past, if you consider it that way, which really is that it is past, we realize that the present and the future is much more important, because what happens next moves our lives. The past shapes us. Yes, it's true. But the present and the future is in our hands now. Will you keep on resenting? Will you keep on being angry? Will you consider that our heart's health is very important, and so you don't have to be angry? You don't have to keep on increasing your blood pressure. If you can make that decision for yourself, if you can decide to let go of that anger that is birthed from unforgiveness, you realize that it is worth it. Martin Luther King suffered a lot. I can boldly say that he suffered so much, but he came out with this saying, and I want you to also take it in mind. He said, and I quote, "I have decided to stick with love. Hatred is so much a burden to bear." If you are unforgiving, all of these negative thoughts birth hatred. And then hatred will never get you forward. It will ever get you stuck. It will ever degrade your personality. It's enough. You've suffered enough. You've held yourself in these chains enough. It's time to break it out. It's time to consider forgiving. I know it hurts. Yes, it does. But listen, you are much more important than that. One last thing I want you to know, that you forgive not for the other person, but you forgive for yourself. Like the woman said, it freed her. You forgive for yourself. You forgive so that you can let go the anxiety, so that you can let go the depression, so that you can let go the thoughts at night, the thought that make you sleepless. Your personal life is very important. All of those things have happened in the past. The present matters. The future is in your hands. If you can think about it that way, I know you'll consider it. You know, all of these things are thoughts. There are only two types of thought as well: negative and positive. Unforgiveness always births negative thoughts. But if you can forgive and thrive on positive thoughts, you realize that your life will move on. Lastly, I want you to know that thoughts are like drops of water. Bit by bit, they can increase and make a bucket full. Continuously, they can even make a pond full. They can continue to a lake, even a sea, and finally an ocean. Thoughts drown us. They drown our personality. But it's up to you to choose whether to drown in thoughts of negativity or that of positivity. That will keep your life moving on and forward. I want you to decide, and I want you to choose to forgive. I want you to drive on these reasons, to hold on to these reasons, to decide to think through right now. You can pause the video and think through. Is it worth it forgiving so that you move on in life? Is it worth forgiving so that your personality can be free from depression, can be free from high blood pressure, can be free from anxiety? You need to be free. Your mind needs to be pleasant. Your society needs to be pleasant. Your neighborhood, your atmosphere of contact needs to be pleasant, and it starts from you. If you can forgive and keep your mind at peace, you realize that life is much more important than holding grudges. I know you didn't cause it, you caused it. They did. But it is important for yourself, for your own good. This is the reason. Think through it. I believe that all of these things that I've said, you've taken it. I want you to also share your ideas, because here we talk. I want to also listen to yours. What do you have to say? Say all of them in the comment section. I'll be glad to hear your thoughts, and even what's next to talk about. There are issues that you want us to talk about. Yeah, I would like you to comment them. I'll go through every comment so that in the next video we can tackle yours, or if not the next one as well. I want you to subscribe. Don't enjoy it alone. Subscribe and then share so that someone else can also listen to this. I believe that you've been blessed. I believe that all these words can shape our lives together so that we move on, because the world needs people that will forgive. The world needs peace, and peace begins from us, from the personal perspective. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day. We'll meet some other time in the next video. Bye-bye.